Narcissistic managers can ruin your work life, and sometimes it's your coworkers too. These are some red flags you should never ignore. Hello and welcome to Poison Break, Toxic Tales at Work. Today I'm sharing my experience with a narcissistic manager and red flags you should look out for. So I want to start with the way they are trying to bond. So they have a very weird, inappropriate or insincere attempt to quote unquote bond with you, including overstepping boundaries and inserting themselves into your personal life. So I have experienced this so intensely. I would describe it as a very unnatural way of trying to bond with you and almost forcing you to open up or guilt trip you if you don't. So it really feels like they are trying to get through you, and they try to get out every bit of information they can get so that they can either use it against you or that they have the power over you in a way, but also to, try to bond with you or make them maybe also more likable because, you say you like this thing and then 2 weeks later they mention that thing, or they ask you, do you also like, stickers, for example? Do you also like stickers? And somehow they kind of catched that information that you might like stickers. It's just a very weird example at this point, but they maybe, asked you some other question or something unrelated and they kind of overheard that and then they mention it later on. Something like that. It is, in my case, my narcissistic manager, she always said, we have so much in common, we could be the same person, and it's so creepy, and how can that be? She was making it such a big deal and just using everything that I said and that I answered to her questions, not against me, but she was kind of using it to try to bond with me in a way, or making it seem like we have everything in common, like we could be the same person, literally. That's what she said. And I thought, what is happening? This is so weird. Like, this can't be true. This is super weird. I remember that. I was thinking, why do we have so much in common? Like, is this, I don't know. It was so confusing. This is something to really watch out for because this is actually typical narcissistic behavior. They don't know how else to form an authentic, real relationship. They can only mirror. And that's the only thing they can do. And so they try to find similarities. They try to analyze you and really study you early on in the first meeting just to form that bond and be very, very intense so that you kind of, worship them or have no other option than to like them and do everything they say and be their little flying monkey, The next one is projecting and micromanagement. So if someone regularly describes others using terms like toxic, for example, or generally talking a lot about other people, be very on guard around them. It could mean that they are projecting their own toxicity on other people, and they generally belittle other people and seem to have something bad to say about everyone, and they seem to know everything. They know all the secrets, they know everything about everyone, and they're just bad-mouthing everyone and everything, except those who protect them. That's very important to mention at this point. The ones who protect them, they are never mentioned in a bad way. Like, they are being worshipped because, of course, they cater to them. So it will be very weird. It will be like they have something negative to say about everyone, like I said. It seems like they want to make you feel like you need to be very careful with everyone. They will say, oh, I know this about this person, I know this about that person, and you need to be careful around this person. And in the beginning, I thought with my narcissistic manager, I thought maybe they just have a good feel for people, but it wasn't that. It was not that. This is definitely something to look out for. Another red flag is definitely micromanagement. As I mentioned, micromanagement is a huge red flag. Very important to look out for. Manipulation and controlling behavior, of course, especially undermining the confidence of others. My former manager, for example, she was the queen of micromanagement, and only to act like she gives everyone the freedom they need. She always mentioned that it's so important to her that everyone can work independently and, is free in what they're doing, and just saying the exact opposite of what she was doing. And that was making us feel very confused. It's gaslighting at the end of the day as well. It's just, you will notice quite early on, actually, very, very early on, you will notice that it's not always a narcissistic red flag, micromanagement in itself, but very, very often it goes just hand in hand with a narcissistic leader. It's very typical for narcissistic managers and colleagues as well. Like if someone is onboarding you, is training you at the moment, or if you've experienced that, you might know exactly what I mean. Especially in combination with other red flags mentioned, it's very likely that the person has narcissistic tendencies. The next one is atomizing a team. This one is very important to mention as well. Separating everyone out and putting up barriers to collaboration, or even having lunch together, unless, what do you think is going to come now? Unless they're present, of course. So isolating teams and info control is a very important red flag for me to mention. When they are present, all of this is not a problem, okay? So they need to be present with you together, just clinking in, even though you probably don't even want to have the person around, but they need to be there. They need to be present. They always want to be in control, and I think they probably fear being called out, as others could talk about them and find out how fucked up they really are and see the manipulation and everything for what it is. I think they're deep down scared of that, so that people really unmask them in a way or find out their true colors, and they just take advantage of people being on their own. They arrange lunches with people on their own. I've seen this with my former narcissistic manager. She set up those lunch meetings. It's nothing, I want to mention this as well. This is nothing uncommon. People do that, and I know that. But I know that she did that. Like, I know for a fact she did that to have the control, to kind of plant her seats separately with different people and find out information, and they kind of want to separate you from everyone else, just to be in control, of course. And they're not allowing the team to form a bond. It's crazy. They demand to be copied into every single email, but are failing to communicate important information, or they're only doing it at the last minute. This goes hand in hand with the micromanagement red flag. It deserves a red flag on its own, though, in my opinion, because they withhold information only to still have the power and to be able to belittle others and criticize them. And this is selective communication, to make you worse at what you're doing, to make you have to ask those questions like, where do I find this information? Where is this information? I need this for my job. To be the one asking them so that they can be powerful in a way, and also that you can't do your job properly because you cannot outgrow them, You can't be a threat because they are the kings and queens at the end of the day. So there's an example. The boss, when your narcissistic boss, for example, leaves you out, or your boss, you don't know if he's a narcissist or not, but if your boss leaves you out of meetings or emails necessary to do the work. So when it comes down to deliverables, missing information doesn't get passed on to you, and you are, of course, then blamed for whatever goes wrong. This is like a typical excuse here might be, well, I just don't want to over communicate. I don't want you to have too many emails, etc. I've experienced this as well. This is big and very important to mention for me, because it was crazy how often that happened with me in my former job. And if you compare it to healthy leadership, you see that this is absolutely insane and controlled behavior to just not give you the information you need to do your job properly. It's frustrating, it's isolating, it makes you paranoid as well. Crazy. Look out for that. The next one is when the team has an accomplishment, or a single worker has an accomplishment, they take sole credit and they don't acknowledge the work of the team. For example, good presentation. My boss let me know I did a great job at hiring you. They just take the credit. Also, I remember that my boss, my former narcissistic manager, she always, when I did something good or I received good feedback and, she saw that or she heard it, she was always like, oh yeah, I did a good job hiring you. She was acting like, I'm the best for hiring you. So now I can, be praised for my great job. They put themselves in front again. They're like praising themselves. So this is a red flag on its own, taking credit. So taking credit in this case, that they're in a good light, you know. They will never acknowledge you. They will only praise themselves. And if they acknowledge you, maybe it's you can tell it's very insincere because they're only doing it in a way of love bombing. And this is very rarely happening. They're probably more envious and jealous of you. I will go into some more red flags in my other episodes, by the way. I just wanted to mention the very important ones for me now. But I could talk for like 2 hours if I went into detail about all of them. When someone was voicing, with my former manager, when someone was voicing a very positive feedback with the CEO of the company, I just felt the envious side of her. And it was crazy because I just saw her true colors even more on those days when I received good feedback, or, you know, she heard of it. She had those crazy eyes, and you could just tell that she was cooking on the inside because I received good feedback, you know. And she was only searching for mistakes in the email, or, you know, it was absolutely insane. Another one I want to mention is the rules do not apply to them. They work where they want, when they want, and how they want. I don't think I have to add anything to that. The rules do simply not apply to them. They will accept you to apply it to the rules, of course. You know, you have to work accordingly to the rules, to do everything. You have to be perfect, but they can do whatever they want because they're entitled to, right? So that's also very big. They will this one is the last one I'm going to mention at this point. Last but not least, for sure, it's confusion and power. They will confuse you when it's about prioritizing tasks. This was huge in my former job. So one day, it's extremely urgent, you know, it needs to be done ASAP. Oh my God, you know, the building is gonna burn down and the world is gonna end if you don't do this by tomorrow. And the next day, like, you've been stressing yourself out, you know, the colleagues, you've been, you know, in the team, it was like extremely stressful and you've been panicking and how should we get this done and whatever, you know? And the next day it's like, oh, when you voice that and you're super stressed, obviously. The whole team is stressed, you know. After work, you've been thinking, oh my God, how should I be doing this? It's impossible. And then she's like, oh, why did you stress yourself out so much because of this? It's not even that important. You just have to talk to me, you know. Just do this and that. Trust me, it's not even that important. This is crazy. It is gaslighting at its finest. They will really blow everything up. Every small task, they will blow it up. And you will have 10 meetings about one email. It makes you go insane. It makes you be completely unable to prioritize logically for yourself. It's impossible because they make you lose that ability because you're thinking like, well, you just said it's super urgent and now it's not. Now what? You know? The expectations are crazy. You can never meet their expectations. They change them constantly. They change them with how they feel. They change them to manipulate you, to confuse you. It is insane. So these are some of the many red flags of a narcissistic manager or coworker. And there is so much more I could tell you, and I will tell you also about what I have experienced. I will go more into detail in the upcoming episodes. Maybe you've recognized some of those patterns. Maybe you're trying to find out if one of your managers or coworkers is narcissistic, or maybe you have experienced working under a toxic management. Whatever it is, I hope it could help you. I hope you could take away something, and I would love to see you in the next one. I hope I could help, you know, and make things a bit clearer. Don't doubt yourself too much, and don't think you're going crazy or anything like that. Stay strong, stay sane, and your intuition is so right most of the time. Let me tell you that at this point. And you are not alone. If you want to share your experiences with me, feel free to do so. You either write me an email or you can DM me on Instagram or just reach out to me however you want to, if you want to. So thank you for listening, and until next time, bye bye.